Peace in Ukraine or a Christmas truce. Viktor Orban says that Zelensky has rejected the offer of a Christmas truce, and there are looming anti-war protests in Berlin calling for peace. There's a fraught landscape of fractured alliances, contested motives, and of course the burden of leadership in wartime. Viktor Orban, Hungary's prime minister, claims to have extended an olive branch, a Christmas ceasefire, and a large-scale prisoner exchange between Ukraine and Russia. And the gesture, he argues, makes Hungary's final attempt at fostering peace as it concludes the EU Council presidency. It makes this effort seem a little futile. Orban's remarks on social media lamented Zelensky's outright rejection, painting Hungary as the beleaguered peacemaker to an ungrateful Europe and an ungrateful Ukraine. But it isn't the whole story. Zelensky and his aides suggest otherwise. Ukraine, they argue, was never consulted about such a truce. Instead, they accuse Orban of pursuing a personal PR, leveraging his conversation with Putin to appear as a statesman above the fray. And Zelensky's sarcastic jab, warning Orban not to seek further advice from the likes of Bashar al-Assad, reflects the Ukrainian leader's skepticism and frustration with what he sees as an erosion of European unity. The news is now also emerging that Bashar al-Assad was given advice by the Kremlin and Russian spies about when to leave, and given help in leaving. Zelensky's making it quite clear that there was no possibility of staying, and there is a sort of blame game going on in the Kremlin at the moment, asking why it got to that stage, why Russia could not have intervened beforehand and stopped the advance of the Syrian rebels. Zelensky's rejection of a truce is not merely obstinacy. He's consistently framed peace as a collective European endeavour, emphasising unity against unilateral actions that weaken the continent's resolve. His argument is clear. No lasting peace can be achieved without addressing Russia's fundamental aggression and securing guarantees that ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security. And Ukraine's leadership also underscores its active pursuit of prisoner exchanges through established channels, dismissing Hungary's proposal as unnecessary theatre. As one aide put it, Ukraine needs not PR, but a fair peace. And who can blame them? For Ukraine, a ceasefire risks freezing the conflict on Russia's terms, allowing Putin to consolidate gains and regroup. That would be appalling. In the middle of these diplomatic tensions, a poignant parallel emerges. The Russian opposition, led by figures such as Yulia Navalnaya and Ilya Yashin and Vladimir Karamurza, is planning a march of protest in Berlin, and their slogans, "Putin, stop killing," cuts through the global rubbish, the global noise, to name the war chief's principal architect. These opposition leaders, many of whom have paid dearly for their dissent, draw a direct line between Putin's actions in Ukraine and the broader repression in Russia, including the assassinations of Boris Nemtsov and Alexei Navalny. And the Navalny groups have now published conversations that were secretly filmed between Navalny and his lawyer in prison. So that will come out in the next few days. The efforts of these opposition leaders remind us that not all Russians are complicit in this war. In fact, a great number of Russians are not. These protests serve as a vital counter-narrative to Kremlin propaganda, illustrating the courage of those who have resisted authoritarianism from within. And the idea of a Christmas truce evokes the 1914 truce, when German and Allied soldiers laid down their arms to share cigarettes, football and songs in no man's land. And that fleeting moment of humanity has since become a symbol of what is possible when leaders step back and soldiers refuse to dehumanize their enemies. But a lot of this depends on sharing a similar Christmas day. Under Patriarch Kirill, the Russian Christmas is not the same as the Ukrainian Christmas. 2024 is no 1914. Unlike the soldiers of the First World War, Ukraine's leadership sees any pause as a victory for Russia's imperial ambitions. And the trust is non-existent. A Christmas ceasefire today would be weaponized, its intentions questioned, its outcomes manipulated. Orban's proposal, whether sincere or self-serving, has highlighted the fractured nature of Europe's approach to this war. For Zelensky, peace is not merely the cessation of hostilities, but the guarantee of freedom and justice. And for the Russian opposition, peace means holding Putin accountable and envisaging a post-Putin Russia. For Orban, perhaps peace means a photo op. That's it. Ultimately, peace requires more than gestures. It demands trust, unity, and a shared vision for the future. And as Europe marches towards another Christmas shadowed by war, we need to remember that the truest peace is not just the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice.